Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Jaded Blossom's brand new Wild About You release is now available. Here's a quick look at the January 2025 release from Jaded Blossom. It's an adorable release. And if you're interested in any of the products, I do have links in the description box below. There are 4 new stencil sets. The Giraffe Print Stencil is the freebie you'll receive if you purchase at least $50 worth of product, and 1 item must be from the new release. The freebie stencil is only available for a limited time and while supplies last. Then there are 3 more stencils. We have Zebra Stripes, Leopard Print, and the Leopard Print is 2 pieces. There's also Cow Print. The other 3 stencil sets are 1 stencil piece. These are all really fun designs, perfect for creating a background. Next up is the stamp set Valentine Gnome Faces. So if you love adding faces to your gnomes, this is a fun new addition. Look at all the cute little faces. Lots of hearts for eyes. And I think the faces would also work with some of the Gnome Friend sets. There's also just a pair of heart eyes, the single mouse, and there's a teeny tiny heart. So lots of fun options. Next is a stamp set called Lover's Lane, and there are lots of really small sentiments, and this coordinates with one of the new street lamp add-on sets. And I should have grabbed that when I was showing this set. This set will work throughout the year since we have a couple of general sentiments, but many of them are perfect for different holidays. The next stamp set is called Wild Valentine. There are coordinating outline dies to go with this set. At the time I recorded this video, I didn't have them due to a manufacturing delay. This is a really fun set, perfect for Valentine cards, but you could also use most of the sentiments throughout the year. And it works really well with a couple of the new die sets. There's another new stamp set. This is called Sealed with a Kiss, and this was designed to work with one of the brand new die sets. And I'll grab that here in a moment. There are lots of fun sentiments, few images, and you can use these to decorate a postcard or letter. And that's the die set that this works with, is the new Gnome Gift Card Slider Letter Add-on Set. It does help to have the original Gnome Gift Card Slider die set, but you could use some of the elements on the letter add-on set without the original. If you want to create that gift card slider, you do need the original set. So there's the 2 different pieces to create a letter. There's a stamp, a wax seal, and some smaller images, hearts, stars, and lips. The next die set is another add-on. It's the Street Lamp Die Valentine add-on set. And this is the one that works with the Lover's Lane sentiment set that I showed earlier on. There's that smaller rectangle piece, and those sentiments fit perfectly inside. You could also put them in that small banner flag piece. Then we have a new embellishment cluster set. Super excited about this one. It's called Valentine. There are 4 different images, the XO, the lips, some whimsical looking hearts, and also a chocolate kiss. And as with all of the embellishment clusters, there are 6 pieces on 1 die, so you can quickly cut out lots of embellishment pieces, and they're all available in 3 different sizes. I love Jaded Blossom's embellishment cluster sets, and this is a great new addition. Now moving on to a new Gnome die add-on set. This one's called Safari. So we have a new hat, there's also a backpack, and a little outfit for the girl gnome. There's also a bandana, a belt, and a pair of goggles. It's always fun to have new accessories for our gnomes. And Jaded Blossom never disappoints. They just keep releasing more and more fun products. The final die set is another gnome add-on set. This one's called Animal, and there are so many pieces packed onto this set. You can dress up your gnome to be a lion, a mouse, an elephant, a fox, and there's also a small fox image, which is just adorable. Look at all the fun ears. There's the elephant trunk. There's a bow, a peanut, a giant slice of cheese for the gnome to hold. There are so many options on this set. The Wild Valentine stamp set works nicely with all the images on the animal add-on die set, but you could use these throughout the year. Be perfect for Halloween since you could have several animal costumes. I'm mostly focusing on Valentine cards right now. I have 8 different card designs to share with you, and I'm showing the process of assembling 4 of them. Most of the pattern paper I'm using is from Echo Park's Love Notes collection. I have the 12x12 collection kit. I love the beautiful colors in this paper collection. So let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I selected the light teal tone-on-tone pattern paper with the heart arrows. I've already cut it down to A2 size and adhered it onto an A2 size card base. The first 2 cards I'm making will feature the Gnome gift card slider letter add-on set. I'll start off by assembling the little postage stamp. For the largest piece, I use some white shimmer cardstock. For this square, it's a little hard to see in the video, but I use some of the pink tone-on-tone gingham pattern paper. Then I'll add a red heart on top. Now I'll attach the stamp on a postcard, and I cut this out from some craft cardstock. So now I'll use the stamps from the new Sealed with a Kiss set. And we'll decorate the postcard. I'm stamping Happy Mail at the bottom. I already have this set up in a Mini Misty. The ink color I'm using is Black Onyx by Gina K Designs. And I did ink it up a couple times to get a nice solid impression. I have more stamps set up on the opposite end of my Mini Misty, but I'll first clean off the Happy Mail stamp. I'm using a stamp chamois from scrapbook.com. Now I'll ink up the other 2 stamps. I'm adding the word postcard in the upper left-hand corner and also the 3 squiggly lines. The very right side of that will go on top of the postage stamp. Next, I'll put Barely Art glue on the back of the postcard and adhere it on that background piece. I use white cardstock since all of that will be covered up. It has the postcard and also the head for the gnome. I use red cardstock for the gnome's hat, dark gray cardstock for the beard and mustache, and many of the dies for the gnome are included in the Gnome gift card slider set. It doesn't include the mustache or the nose. Those pieces are included in the original Boy Gnome die set. After adhering the beard, I'll add the mustache. For the nose, I am popping it up with foam dimension. I'm using scrapbook.com's small foam squares in the 1mm thickness. I'm almost out of this sheet. I have just a few of the cut squares left. Next, I'll attach the hands on the very top edge of the postcard. Now this piece is designed to fit inside the slider, but I decided not to make a gift card slider. Instead, I'm adding this piece on the front of a card. I will be popping it up using more foam dimension. This is the 1/4 inch foam from scrapbook.com in the 1mm thickness. Make sure to get good coverage so there isn't one area that sags. Remove the release paper and I'll adhere it at the very bottom of the card, about 1/4 of an inch up from the bottom. I like that it still fits on an A2 size card, so you can use this set even if you don't want to do a gift card slider. For a little extra detail on the postcard, I'm adding 2 of the small hearts, and these are from the new Valentine Embellishment cluster die set. I'll add 2 of them in the lower right-hand corner underneath the Happy Mail sentiment. In the upper left-hand corner, I'm adding 2 banners, and I use pattern paper from the Love Notes collection by Echo Park. The larger banner is white with gray stripes, and the smaller banner is a darker teal with white polka dots. I'll cut a fishtail on the bottom, add the larger white banner first, And before adding the smaller banner, I'll put a scrap piece of pattern paper on the right side of that white piece. Then I'll attach the smaller banner. That way the right side of that small banner doesn't dip down. Now I'll add 3 more hearts on the 2 banners in the upper left-hand corner. For a final finishing touch, I'll use a white gel pen, add a few highlights on the gnome and also the hearts. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. When I make duplicate cards, I have the original one sitting right next to me, and yet I completely forgot to stamp the Be My Valentine circle with the heart, and I didn't even realize it while recording. I first noticed it when doing the voiceover. So before giving it away, I will add that stamp. Now moving on to card design number 2. For the background of my card, I'm using the pink tone-on-tone gingham pattern paper. This is A2 size. To soften the background just a little bit, I'm adding a panel of vellum. It's a little over half the size of the background. When attaching the vellum, I only put adhesive in the area that I know will be covered up. And for a little extra detail, and it'll also help hold that vellum piece, I'll put a Love from Lizzie peel off along the top edge of the vellum. This is the pinstripe style in clear with gold overlay. I'm using the Gnome gift card slider die set again, but this time I'm adding the back side of the envelope. I use pattern paper for the envelope, this very light pink with darker pink hearts. There are 3 main pieces for the envelope. The stitched rectangle piece is from the original slider die set, and the 2 flaps are from the new letter add-on set. I'll stamp a sentiment on the back of the envelope using special delivery. I have it set up in my Mini Misty. The ink color I'm using is Catherine Pooler's Rouge. I did ink it up a couple times to get a nice solid impression. Now I'll add the envelope on the background piece using white cardstock again, since I always have a lot of extra white cardstock and all of this area will be covered up. Use teal cardstock for the gnome's hat, a dark brown cardstock for the beard and also mustache, using a slightly lighter brown cardstock for the nose and also the hands. I love using a variety of skin tones for the gnomes, and Jaded Blossom does sell a paper pad that includes 6 different skin tones. Another cardstock color I love using is from Concord and Ninth. It's their Nectar color. And I will have both of those linked in the description box below. With the gnome's hands on the edge of the envelope, I thought it would be cute to have him hold a banner of hearts. And this piece is included in the Wheelbarrow die set. It's the Love Mail add-on. It's a perfect size to fit on the back of the envelope. I use white shimmer cardstock for the string and red cardstock for the hearts. And I made sure to attach it before adding the gnome's hands. I'm popping up the nose using more foam dimension, and I did have to grab a brand new pack of the small foam squares from scrapbook.com. Now I'll add the hands, and I'm only putting glue at the bottom portion of the hands since the top area goes above the envelope. I love wax seals, so I couldn't resist adding a pretty gold shimmery wax seal on the back of the envelope. And in the inside of the wax seal, I'm adding one of the new whimsical hearts. This is included on the Valentine Embellishment cluster die set. For a little extra detail on the gnome's hat, I used a lighter teal cardstock color, cut out 5 of the XO pieces from the Embellishment Cluster Valentine set. Just glue those randomly on the hat. I think that adds a really fun detail. I'll also be adding one of the new Valentine street lamps. I selected the one with the heart cut out. I used a brighter pink cardstock for the lamp and yellow glitter paper for the heart. At first I thought about adding a red heart, but I think the yellow glitter paper stands out a little bit more and adds a touch of sparkle. I know it's not really a scene card, but I thought it would look cute on the left-hand side. I will cut off the bottom portion of the street lamp since you won't see it. I've already put foam dimension on the back of the envelope and gnome. I'll remove the release paper and adhere it at the bottom of the card. Now I'll cut off that bottom portion of the street lamp, put barely art glue on the back, and I'll tuck it behind the envelope on the left side. For a final finishing touch, I'll use a white gel pen and add highlights on the lamp, the hearts, and also the gnome. And my white gel pen was not working. I had to go and grab a new one. I usually have really good luck with the brand Pandafly. I found it on Amazon, but the last two pens I've had from them are not working very well. Hopefully this one will be better, and maybe I had a couple of defects. So there is my finished card, and I did make two using this design. For card design number 3, moving on to some of the fun animal dress-up costumes for the gnome. For the background of my card, selected this fun pattern paper with hearts and pink foliage, adding a little bit of shine using some Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the pinstripe style in clear with gold overlay. You'll only see a tiny bit on the right and left side, so I'm able to use some of my small leftover scrap pieces. I'll wrap the ends around the back, layer this piece on some red cardstock, then I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. The pattern paper piece is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and the red cardstock layer is an additional 1/8 of an inch. Next, I'll add a large postage die cut piece, and I use Jaded Blossom postage die set. I cut it out from the pink tone-on-tone gingham pattern paper. I popped it up with foam dimension, and I'll adhere it in the center of the card. This gnome will be all dressed up as a lion, and this costume is absolutely adorable. Decided to have a boy gnome. I use white cardstock for that very background piece. I will need to trim off the top of that background hat since it's a little bit too tall for the lion's mane. With the boy gnomes, I always start by adhering the beard. Then I add the hat. In this case, it's the lion's mane or the head. Next, I'll attach the mustache and then the nose. And I do pop up the nose using foam dimension. Now I'll add the ears. I use a slightly lighter cardstock color for the ears and also the lion's face. For the inside of the ears, I selected pink cardstock. Trying to make sure I get the right inside piece on the correct side. Next, I'll add the lion's face. Use the same cardstock color as the ears. For the lion's muzzle, I use a light tan cardstock, and I did pop it up with more foam dimension. For the lion's nose, I used some dark brown cardstock. Trying to make sure to get it centered. I accidentally nudged it a little bit too hard and it moved up, but luckily I was able to reposition it. Then the final pieces for the lion's face are the eyes, and they are teeny tiny. I use black cardstock. I'll first put a small drop of barely art glue, then I'll pick up the eyes using the wax tip end of Scrapbook.com's Craft Pro Pick tool. If you don't have this tool yet, I highly recommend it, and I think it was just recently restocked at Scrapbook.com. Now I'll assemble the lion's feet. And it's so cute since it's the bottom of the lion's feet. You can see all the little toe beans. I'm using the same golden brown cardstock color for the feet that I used for the ears and the lion's face. And I'm inlaying the beans with a darker brown cardstock color. Now I didn't keep track of the different pieces when I cut them out. The 2 center beans, I don't think it matters which foot you put those in, but those outside, the right and left ones do make a difference. So I'm testing out the placement first before attaching them. With all of the fun gnome add-on sets that Jaded Blossom has released, which one is your favorite? Not sure I could even come up with one anymore since they've released so many different sets. I think there's at least 3 or 4 dozen options now. The Easter add-on set number 2 includes a tulip, and I love tulips, so I definitely love that set. The outdoor add-on set has a camera, and that's really fun. I also love their gnome friends. The penguin is my favorite so far. You never know what animal they'll release next. So it's fun, even if you're not a gnome fan, they now have the gnome friends. Since I'm sticking with Valentine's Day cards, this gnome dressed up as a lion will be holding a red heart. And this heart is included on the Wheelbarrow die Love Mail add-on set. I think that's fun since it's a skinny, tall heart. We'll first attach the hands, flip it over, put foam dimension on the back, then adhere it in front of the gnome. I'll also add foam dimension behind the lion's feet, and this time I'm using the large foam squares from scrapbook.com. These are also the 1 millimeter thickness. After attaching the feet and the heart, I'll put a little bit of glue at the very end of the tail and adhere it on the right side of the gnome. I'll be adding the gnome in the center of the card. I've already gone ahead and put foam dimension on the back. I've also stamped out the sentiment, "I'm on the hunt for a Valentine." I think that works perfectly for a gnome dressed up as a lion. Since I didn't have the outline dies while making these cards, I use the mini tag die set number 3 from Jaded Blossom. I'll first attach the sentiment at the very bottom of the Postage die cut. Now I'll add the lion right above it. On the right and left side of the sentiment, I'm adding one of the hearts, and this is the smallest size from the Valentine Embellishment cluster die set. And for a final finishing touch, I'll use a white gel pen, add highlights inside the ears, on the heart, the tail, and I'll put a teeny tiny dot in the center of the eyes. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. This is one of my favorite cards. I love the lion costume. For card design number 4, I selected 3 pattern papers from Echo Park's Love Notes collection. For the background panel, I have this design with lots of love sentiments and red hearts. This piece is 3 7/8 of an inch by 5 1/8 of an inch. On the left side, I'm adding a 1 3/4 inch strip of a light teal and red heart piece. Along the edge of that piece, I'll put some black peel-offs. This is the pinstripe style, and I'm using the widest width. I'm able to use some of the scrap pieces on the right side since I will be covering up that area with an image. I'll layer the background piece on some black cardstock, and that piece I cut about 1/16 inch bigger. I wanted a very narrow border around it. Then I'll layer it again on the red tone-on-tone gingham pattern paper. On the right side of the card, I'm adding a large stitched oval die cut, and I use some teal cardstock, put barely art glue on the back, and adhere the oval in place. So now it's time to assemble a little girl gnome dressed up as an elephant. I've already assembled most of the girl gnome. I used some Doodlebug Design petite print for her hat and also her dress. I thought it would be fun that her outfit is gray to go with the elephant costume. For the elephant ears, I use a slightly darker gray cardstock. The inside of the ears, I use light pink cardstock. There's the little band that attaches the 2 ears. That's where I'll add adhesive and then put the girl gnome right on top. I used barely art glue, but on the back side, I'll also add a strip of double-sided adhesive tape. And that'll help hold those ears in place until that glue fully dries. I've already assembled the elephant feet, and I did the same process I did for the lion's feet and just inlaid all those little toes. Pop them up using foam dimension. For the elephant's tusk, I used some off-white cardstock, very light ivory color. I'll adhere both of those in place. Now I'll add the elephant's trunk right above her nose, and I did put foam dimension just behind the top area of the trunk. And I'll put glue in the area where it sits on her nose. For the elephant's eyes, there are 2 pieces. I use white for the larger piece, black cardstock for the smaller piece. Just put one eye on the right and left side of her hat. I almost attached the right eyepiece on the left side, but luckily I caught it before completely adhering it down. Now I'll adhere the inside black piece of the eyes. For the elephant's tail, I used 2 different shades of gray cardstock. I'll put that tiny bit of glue on the end of the tail, then lay the gnome on top. That way I can see how much of the tail is sticking out on the left side. She'll be holding the peanut. This is a giant peanut compared to the little girl gnome. Use 2 different shades of brown cardstock. Just adhere those together. I'll attach her hands on the right and left side. Flip it over, put foam dimension on the back. I'm using more small foam squares from scrapbook.com in the 1mm thickness. Then I'll remove the release paper and add the peanut in front of the little girl. So there she is, all dressed up as an elephant. So cute. I've already gone ahead and put foam dimension on the back. Used a mixture of the small and large foam squares from scrapbook.com. I'll remove the release paper and add her at the bottom of the teal oval. For a sentiment, I've already stamped out, "I am wild about you." I used another tag from the mini tag die set number 3. And I cut out a second one from some silver holographic paper from scrapbook.com. I'll layer the 2 pieces together, offsetting them slightly so you can see that lovely holographic sparkle on the right side and also underneath the sentiment. Then I'll hold that piece in the upper left-hand corner, flip over the card, use a pair of scissors, and trim off the overhang. Now I'll put more foam dimension on the back and adhere it in the upper left-hand corner. And I have the very edge of the sentiment flush on the left side. For embellishments, I'm adding more of the whimsical hearts, and I cut these out from some teal iridescent cardstock. Can you tell that I love this new heart embellishment shape? I've used it quite a bit on my cards. It's so nice that you can use different cardstock or pattern paper for your embellishments. That way you know they'll always match your card or project. I'll put 3 underneath the sentiment, did 1 of each size, and I'll add 2, the medium and the smallest heart on the right side of the elephant. So this card will have lots of beautiful sparkle with the 2 iridescent and holographic papers. For a final finishing touch, I'll use a white gel pen, add highlights on the elephant's head and also the peanut. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I have 4 more cards to share, although I did not record the process. So first up is this cute little gnome dressed up as a mouse. She's holding the large piece of cheese. And I added the sentiment, "I don't mean to be cheesy, but have a mice Valentine's Day." And this would be a really fun image to customize if you're a Disney fan. The next card probably took me the longest to make. I created a fun tropical scene and added 2 gnomes, a boy and a girl, all dressed up in their safari gear. The dies I use for the background are flower dies and the large palm tree dies from Jaded Blossom. The gnomes are both holding hearts, and I use some embossed gold mirror cardstock for the hearts. The heart dies are from the Wheelbarrow Love Mail add-on set. I added the sentiment, "Hope your Valentine's Day is wild," and I did need to fussy cut that out until I get my outline dies. For the last 2 cards, I used 2 of the new stencils. For this card, I used the Leopard Print Stencil. Couldn't resist doing a brown and pink design. And for a little bit of shimmer, I used some Distress Spritz, the Kitsch Flamingo color. It's a little hard to see, but when the light hits it just right, that background has a lovely shimmery finish. The little girl is dressed up in her safari gear, pink of course. Added some peel-offs at the bottom of the card in pink holographic, And I added more whimsical hearts using some pink iridescent cardstock. For my final card, I used the zebra stripe stencil, and for that gorgeous shimmery finish, I used Distress Spritz. This is the Hickory Smoke color. I sprayed it through the stencil for that fun background, and it's super shimmery. I cut out the panel using a large stitched heart die, put pattern paper on the background, added some peel-off strips on the right and left side. The Sentiment Love is Jaded Blossom's Love Stacked word die. And for the pretty pink bow on the left side of the heart, I used Jaded Blossom's Build a Wreath die set. This is a very simple design, but it has lots of beautiful shimmery and shiny detail. Now here's another look at the 12 cards I made using Jaded Blossom's brand new January 2025 release. This release is perfect for Valentine's Day cards, but you could use most of the products throughout the year. I love the new animal critter costumes, so many fun new stencils, and even after making 12 cards, there were still items in the new release that I didn't have a chance to use. So make sure to pull those out for future videos. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. Jaded Blossom never disappoints with their amazing releases, and I love that their stamps, dies, and stencils are all made in the US. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.